Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to the very long-awaited foot update. Hoof update, just overall update? No, just on the hooves. Because as you know, it's been several months since I've actually updated you guys on Koda's feet. And yeah, I totally left you guys on a complete cliffhanger. I don't even know how many months ago, and I said in the video, next weekend we're gonna do a huge update, we're gonna get his feet done, or something. I don't even remember. It was several months ago. And none of that happened. The video didn't go up because it just didn't happen. I didn't make nearly as much progress as I thought I made, and I was embarrassed about it. I thought that Koda was further along and was ready for the farrier, and he absolutely was not. And in reality, he had months before he was ready for the farrier. I tried on 2 different occasions to get his feet done by a farrier, and 2 different farriers even, and it just didn't work out. He just mentally wasn't ready. And I don't think I was either, if I'm totally honest, because I was kind of afraid for him, if that makes any sense. I don't know. It was a nerve-wracking experience having farriers come, and I kind of had to bite that down and, you know, tough it out for my own horse, and he just wasn't ready, unfortunately. So only recently I actually managed to get Koda's feet done by the farrier, and it went pretty well in my opinion. His feet have not been done in over a year, just over a year. His previous owner was the last person who managed to get his feet done, and I have papers that show each of his farrier visits that she had with him, and on the very last farrier visit you can see that he stopped cooperating with his hind legs, and then when I got him he wasn't even willing to do his front legs. And the first few months, however many months of owning Koda, I didn't see him often enough to actually work on his feet and work on making progress. So it was really and truly February where I started training Koda, or whenever it was that I started uploading videos to my channel. That's when I started working with Koda. Now after Koda's farrier visit we had a little bit of backtracking, and I think that's because Koda's feet were so sensitive, and you know, I'm sure they were quite sore after the farrier visit, because again, it'd been a year since his feet were done, and if I could have gotten them done sooner, I would have gotten them done, you know, in the first few weeks I had him. But it just didn't work out that way, unfortunately, and Koda's trauma, and like I said earlier, he just mentally wasn't ready for a farrier visit. So like I said, we just recently got his feet done, and it went pretty well. We actually did it in the dark with some light, and we got it done and no sedation needed. And I will go, I think, a little bit more into detail about what those visits looked like, I think, later on in this video. But first, we have to discuss the bit of backtracking that Koda and I've done, and the fact that his feet still aren't the best to handle. There was still kicking happening in the farrier visit, and he started to want to toss his front end upwards, not into a rear, just kind of hop to avoid, you know, getting his feet done, which is completely understandable. He was stressed, and it's a sensitive thing. But the kicking is what I really wanted to address, because I actually hadn't worked with his back feet very much, just because I didn't know really the best way to go about it, if I'm totally honest, until finally it just was like, okay, let's get this done. You know, I can't procrastinate this any longer, because your feet absolutely have to be done, and I want you to be ready for the next farrier visit. And this is what we're going to see throughout this video. So you're going to see the progress of our training over this past couple weeks, and how much it's improved since I just kind of started ripping off the bandage with some things and kind of facing my own fears so my horse could face his fears, if that makes any sense. Okay, so this is a little bit awkward what I have set up right now, because I just have this bag tied to my little drawstrings on my sweatpants. But I have Handsome here. We haven't done any clicker training in a really long time, and before we get doing anything, I kind of have to reintroduce it to him. He thinks he's gonna get his dinner, but he has a few minutes to wait. I think like an hour to wait before he gets his dinner. So it's been a while since we've done anything. Unfortunately, it is like kind of missing out. So we're gonna try this again, and we're gonna see how well he'll pick it up again. Koda, target. Good boy. And I'm going to be really slow at this, but I'm going to do my best to kind of pick it up again. So this might be a little bit embarrassing, if I'm honest, and this bag is not the best to work with either. my thought process here is we're gonna get him cleaned up, but I really need to treat his hooves and do his hooves. And that's kind of hard to do because we've had a little bit of backtracking that's happened with his feet since having the farrier come. So my goal is to get those treated, and I want to bring back positive reinforcement for his feet because that worked really well. The weather is also a lot cooler. It's just a future drop in temperature. So he is little bit of a feisty monster, aren't you? Yes. So in this sped up footage that you're seeing, I decided to revisit clicker training, as I said at the beginning of the video, because I knew that clicker training was going to be the best option for his feet, and because once I've positively introduced his feet being done and picked out and whatever needs to be done to it, over time I can start dwindling off the treats and he will just have a good time getting his feet done. So in this first footage, it kind of is a little bit weird because you don't really see me doing literally anything with his feet. Instead, all I'm doing on this first day is reintroducing clicker training and the positive reinforcement that I know, and I'm very new to positive reinforcement, so I make a absolute ton of mistakes. I'm totally and utterly slow at it, but the goal was just to kind of introduce it, and it was a bit of a mess because he's quite muggy, and we're going to even address that in the next training session, which happens the next day after this clip that you're, or this video clip that you're seeing. I wanted to really wanted to groom Koda because he's behind on his grooming because I had been gone and because of the weather and whatever other excuse I could come up with, but he was really dirty and I just couldn't get him to stand still and cooperate for the grooming session. So I, for some reason, was like, you know what, I want to try ground tying because I feel like teaching him to tie and teaching him to stand is really going to help in this grooming progress, and you know, so I can actually groom him. Because it was kind of a pain in the butt, and that's what we started doing. We started introducing ground tying and standing and just listening to the clicker, and actually that was the best decision I think I've made with any of my training. I don't know, maybe not, but it definitely helped and actually sped things along throughout the following days. Yeah, he did really well at the ground tying. The only thing that we really had to work on was his response of coming back to me, because I think he'd just kind of zone out when he ground tied and kind of be like, oh, okay, we're doing something. And he picks up anything that I teach him the first day I teach it to him. He's very quick about it. These sessions are usually 20 to 30 minutes long at most. Really and truly, it sits probably around the 20 to 25 minute range, and a lot of that's just me messing about. So yeah, first day training, it's just revisiting the clicker. We messed around with ground tying, and then the next day is when we were going to start to mess with his feet. Okay, excuse me, handsome, I'm coming under. Okay. So, trying something a little different. I don't know how well this is gonna work, because somebody here is a bit muggy. So if I have to, I'll take this off. We were only gonna start messing with his front feet on the next day just because I wasn't quite mentally ready to mess with those back feet, and I knew he wasn't gonna be mentally ready to mess with those back feet. So I was like, okay, let's start with the clicker training and your front feet, and you know, this is the way I also want to teach a vocal command to pick up your feet. Anytime I have a farrier vet or trainer come out, they never use my vocal command to pick up Koda's feet, and it drives me insane. So he doesn't pick up his feet because he expects a vocal command to, and he doesn't know these people, you know? And I think a vocal command for picking up a horse's foot is really important, because sometimes I want to mess with their legs and I don't want him to pick up his feet, you know? So that's really and truly why I want to teach him a vocal command. So in the beginning of this next session, I started introducing, again, we're working with a clicker, but I started introducing where his head belongs when I give him food. I think I kind of introduced it a little bit on the first training session day, but I didn't do a very good job of it, like at all. It was just a mess. So second day was a little bit better, and it continued to just get better day by day. So working with his front feet on the second day's session, he was doing really well. He's trying really hard, and it's really cute watching him really think about, oh, let me put my head away. Oh, let me put my head away. It's just, It's cute watching him try so hard. And getting footage of your horse like this, I think it's really important because you can actually hear your own tone of voice that you use with your horse. You can really examine all of the horse's body language and make better decisions for the next training session when you go into it. Sometimes there's a lot of things that I missed and I'm completely blind to until I look back at these videos, and then I'm pretty much wanting to strangle myself because it's just so bad. But practice will make progress, so that's all I need to worry about. Oh, and I completely forgot to mention, whatever I do on one side, I have to repeat with the other side. If I'm standing on the left side of Koda and go to offer him food, he's going to move his head to the right, which is away from me. So if I were to go and do that to the other side of him, so his right side, his head needs to move to the left. So just the opposite direction that I'm in. So if I've taught him only from the left side, he might, even when I'm on the right side, move his head to the right, so that would be towards me. That made zero sense, I don't think. But either way, whatever you do to one side, you have to do the other side, just because it might be a little bit confusing, a little bit different. So that's what we did, and then we worked on his right front feet, and he has a harder time with his whole entire right side. He has an old injury in his right hock, and I don't know if it's affecting him or not, or if he's just poorly balanced on his right side. Hopefully we can figure that out. And with consistency, regular farrier visits, and some muscle building exercise, I'm thinking he'll probably be just fine.
Boy, and hold it, and lovely. Head away. Good boy. Koda foot. Nice, go sir. Good boy, hold it. Hold it. Lovely, good man. Head away. Sir, head away.
Alright, so on to the third day. Please excuse this very personal shot. But on to the third day. So today we are going to try to treat his hooves with a hoof oil. As you just saw from that beginning clip, he was doing really nicely with picking up his front feet and letting me pick them out and wasn't overly reactive. However, Koda's feet are dry and he's also having a hard time keeping the right moisture. So he has thrush, he also has white line disease, which we're going to discuss later in the video because it's a whole topic, but it's also unsurprising given the amount of time since Koda's feet have been worked. But this training session was actually a really exciting session, and I just am so proud of how Koda handled everything. It was just amazing. So let's get into it. So unfortunately, because I don't have the best setup, accessing the hoof oil was a little bit awkward, and I do apologize for not having the best angle for this, but I wanted to do his hooves in his stall because it was the least dirt filled, because his paddock is a dirt lot or a mud lot, and his shelter stall thing is only a partial dirt lot. But I wanted to use it to apply the hoof oil in, and he did really well with this. He actually had a horrible reaction to me treating his hooves a few months ago, and he turned his butt to me in the stall, so that wasn't very fun, but he's, as you can tell by his behavior in these clips, he's doing just fine with it. He gets a little weird, I think, when it touches his cornet band. I might be wrong. The hair on his, just above his hoof, for those who don't know. I think just the wet feeling is a little icky. All right, so what's so interesting about today's training session? Well, first, we're gonna add in a couple new factors. It's gonna be very similar to the day before, except this time we're not only adding the hoof oil into the training session, we're also introducing his back feet. I felt perfectly confident in starting him on his back feet. I've seen his behaviors now. I've seen how willing he is to try. So that's what we're doing. We're doing it the same way we do on his front feet. Just, again, repeating that exact same behavior onto his back feet. So there's a couple new factors, and while these don't seem like huge things, these are absolutely huge things. Even the hoof oil, like I said, a few months ago, he did turn his butt to me in the stall pretty nastily when I touched him with the hoof oil. He's also really sensitive to smell, and it does have a smell. It's kind of a minty smell. I find it quite pleasant, but it might have stressed him out previously. So if you're paying attention very carefully just then, I don't know if you noticed in the background, but we had a little friend visit us, a lovely, lovely deer, and they were incredibly active during this whole entire training session, and I was totally oblivious to that one passing by. Actually, I just found it while editing this video, but we have a lot of action happening later on in this video, and if you're very careful, you might pick up on it. Alright, so back to the training session. What you're seeing me do right here is I'm actually just taking, hey, where's that blue stuff lotion, and applying it to some sensitive areas on his back. I noticed that he had a little bit of rain rot happening, and it was making it really hard for me to groom Koda because it was very sensitive and he was telling me off for touching him in those spots. Once I had finished treating his rain rot, we jumped into the last portion of our training session, ground tying. And while we were practicing, our guests decided to have a bit of fun. Stand. Koda, stand. Koda, stand. Good boy. Koda, stand. Koda, stand. It's just casually a bunch of deer running through. Koda, stand. Good boy. I'm pretty sure that was a buck chasing a doe right there, and there's a third one in there. I don't know if I got that on video. That's funny. Good boy, Koda, stand. Oh gosh, what are y'all doing? Y'all see the doe back there? Koda, stand. Koda, come. Koda, come. Koda, come. Come here. I'm confused. Koda, come. So anyways, as fun as that was, the rest of the session, that was pretty much it. We got a little bit distracted together by the deer, and then we wrapped it up for that day and moved on to our next training session in the following days. Okay, so it's been a couple days since we've done work with Koda, so today we're going to do probably your typical session time period, 15 to 20 minutes. It is about to be his feeding time, so he is a bit hungry, so I'm sure he'll be extra food motivated, so hopefully he'll be a good boy. But for today's session, I want to just do a quick pick out of his feet. We've had a couple days of really nasty weather, so he's dirty. He was looking a lot worse, but I sent him out yesterday, and the grass kind of did a natural cleanup, but he is very dusty. But for the time period we have, and I don't want to frustrate him, I think I'll just flick him off with a soft brush because I feel like his skin's a little bit sensitive, and put his fly sheet on because it's not supposed to rain. We have perfectly clear skies, so fly sheet's gonna go on. He should be pretty comfortable for the evening, and he'll sleep out until tomorrow. Okay, so let's get this set up. Let's have our session, handsome, and then let's get you fed. All right, so moving on to the 4th day, we're gonna quicken up the pace a little bit of these sessions, and not only in these actual sessions am I gonna ask more, but in editing, I am gonna actually speed up the video here because a lot of this is going to be quite repetitive. However repetitive it is still incredibly important, and to highlight everything, I want you guys to see mistakes that I make, even though it's sped up, and I want you guys to see all of his progress. So in this session, he did absolutely phenomenal with his feet. We made great progress. As you can see, as I'm picking up his front feet, he was doing a great job. I could pick him out fully. You might have seen him hop a little bit. That's only because he lost his balance, I think, or I just asked him for a little too long. Again, his right foot he really struggles with. I did go into asking for his back feet, and he did really well with responding, and we just kind of worked our way up until I could wrap the rope around them, and I used the rope to hold his hind legs. When my trainer did this, she asked quite a lot from him, and he was constantly kicking, and she was telling him no kicky, no kicky, no kicky, and I'm not going to mess around with kicking. If I can avoid it, I'm going to avoid it. Now, if he does kick, in this case, I will hold his feet longer until I can put them down peacefully and quietly. I don't want to reward kicking. I do want, however, to let him know that I am listening to him. So, there's a couple behaviors that I'll pay attention to. So, depending on the type of kicking, if it's just kicking like, I'm a little uncomfortable with this, I'm going to have him push through it a little bit. If it's kicking like I'm possibly in pain or some other signs, there are signs where I will put his foot down. I'm not going to completely push him like a maniac. I don't know if that made any sense whatsoever. In this training session, we went ahead and started working on grooming. I had to be quite careful because his coat was still a little bit sensitive. He wanted to go for a little bit of a walk, so it did take a little bit of finagling because he was just constantly trying to move around. I was so incredibly proud of how he did with his back feet, letting me wrap my rope around his leg and let me hold it. He didn't kick. He did wiggle his leg a little bit, but he just did so well, and I was so incredibly proud of him for this training session. I popped on his fly sheet, like I said earlier, and then I took him out to the pasture. All right, so now we're going to apply everything we've learned from our previous 5, 6, however many sessions into this new grooming session and see what we can achieve. So immediately starting out, you can go ahead and see me practicing our backing up skills, and I'm doing something a little bit different, and I'm adding in a kind of tying system. He's not tied here. I just have his lead rope sent through baling twine just to apply a little bit of pressure. He absolutely hates tying, so I'm asking for a little bit more this session, and we're going to kind of apply the ground tying and stand command into this tying up training thing that I'm trying to teach him. So we're just applying the same material to a little bit of a different environment. During this session, it's actually a little funny because there's a bunch of vultures just kind of watching us, which was also a little bit creepy. Like, what are you guys implying? But either way, I'm going to give him a really good groom. His back was doing a lot better today, but it was still a little bit sensitive from his rain rot. So I did apply some more lotion later on in the grooming session, and in the following days, it cleared up really nicely. Like, I didn't really notice too much rain rot there. I think it was just more so sensitive, or he was expecting it to be sensitive. In this, he does still have a bad mugging habit where if my treat bag is close to his head, he will try to steal from the treat bag, but I do try to just push him away and tell him no, that's not what we're doing here. And anytime he did back up a little bit too far, I did just kind of bring him back a little bit. I just want to keep him kind of nice and neat and, I don't know. Alright, so when it came to his feet, he did absolutely phenomenal with his feet. I did all of his feet today. It was so very exciting. I was so proud of him. the way I've been working with his feet, I've typically done it from front left to front right, then to back right to back left. So I do it with starting with his best foot, doing his 2 hardest feet, and then ending with another good foot. He just did so well with his back feet. Again, he has a hard time with his back right and his front right, but he did try really hard, so I appreciated his effort, and we kind of just took our time with it, and eventually we got there. Alright, so these next clips might look a little bit weird because I keep going off screen and then reappearing. So in this time period, I'm actually teaching him I'm working on that stand command. So I'm asking him to stand, then I click when he does it, and then I come back and reward. And I do that, and I slowly get further and further away until I can grab things from the other side of the fence where my wagon is. And I just grabbed a little bit of some absorbing Shoshin just to apply it to his neck. He hates being sprayed with things. So again, I took advantage of having some treats and a clicker and started spraying his neck just to kind of help clean up the dust. Alright, so because this video is so long already, I'm actually going to wrap it up here, and we're going to split this video into 2 different parts because I think Koda's feet and his progress with his feet deserve 2 separate videos. So tomorrow I'm going to actually upload the second part to this video so you have that to look forward to. And we're going to take everything that we've learned from all of these training sessions that you just watched in this video and apply it to one big training session and then some. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching if you watched to this point. And if you have watched to this point, if you could please leave a like and possibly subscribe. It would mean so much to me, and I just really appreciate it. I know I sound like every typical YouTuber, but it is true. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Goodbye.